Ashton and Makerfield, Manchester. What's normally a quiet up-and-coming town, a quick bus ride from Wigan city centre, is now an area filled with placards, posters and people. Lots and lots of people. From all across the country, people representing every single major and minor party in England are coming together to campaign. And for good reason. On Thursday, the roughly 76,000 people living in Makerfield will choose their next representative in Parliament. And, if rumours are to be believed, our next Prime Minister. But how did this all start? Well, the history of this by-election can actually be traced back to the last one. That happened a few miles from here, in the constituency of Gorton and Denton, where current Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham was refused the ability to stand by Labour's National Executive Committee. That election was won by now Green MP Hannah Spencer, and this, in tandem with significant losses in the elections for Labour, has put a lot of scrutiny on Keir Starmer in number 10. In an attempt to right this, Josh Simons, the MP for Makerfield, resigned his post, and Andy Burnham was chosen to be Labour's candidate in his place. If Burnham were to win this by-election, he would go on to be a significant inner-party challenger to Starmer, and according to current polls, would easily beat him in a leadership contest. Sounds like a pretty well-thought-out plan, right? Well, there's just one problem. Reform.
Well, people are very positive towards reform because basically they're fed up with the current situation. They know that voting Labour isn't going to improve anything at all. And people have got lots of concerns. Cost of living is obviously a big one. You know, we're not in the wealthiest of areas. Thank you. Cost of living is one. And people are very concerned about immigration, obviously, which is a big reform issue. And they're also worried, of course, and rightly so, about law and order. So those are the sorts of things that people have been raising on the doorsteps. We had a very positive reaction. We've come through on our battle bus today and we've had lots of thumbs up and toots.
Reform UK candidate Rob Kenyon is polling extremely highly. And in a race so heavily nationalised in something only reminiscent of a US presidential election, his experience as a local plumber seems to be resonating with about 40+% of the voting base. Burnham has put his career on the line for this election, and being in the constituency, you can tell. He's said he's knocked on every single door in the area multiple times, because for someone who 10 years ago came second in a leadership contest to Jeremy Corbyn and is now being hailed as the saviour of the Labour Party, the stakes couldn't be much higher. Andy Burnham is currently polling just above Reform UK candidate Rob Kenyon. However, if you combine the votes attributed to Restore Britain and Reform UK, Reform would beat Labour, destroying Andy Burnham's chances at leadership, tarnishing his legacy, and almost guaranteeing Nigel Farage's dominance into the polls going into the next general election. So the people of Makerfield aren't necessarily choosing their local representative, but more so the next Prime Minister between Andy Burnham and Nigel Farage, which could have wide-reaching implications for not just the constituency, not just the United Kingdom, but for the world. But let's back up a bit and talk about Restore Britain. Led by Greater Yarmouth and former Reform UK MP Rupert Lowe, the party is endorsed by people such as trillionaire Elon Musk and often mobilises support on social media platforms like Facebook and X. Their candidate in this by-election, Rebecca Shepherd, seems to be appealing to those who want reform-esque policy without Nigel Farage, calling Reform a controlled opposition. One of the most unexpected things that struck us while visiting Makerfield was the presence of Restore Britain in the area. It seems that everywhere we looked there were Rupert Lowe's supporters, voters and canvassers. And so we spoke to some of them about their reasons for visiting Makerfield and the impact that they're hoping to have on this election, alongside why they're choosing Restore over Reform.
Well, I think Farage and Reform are basically controlled opposition. I think they have been right from the start.
The most important issue here that people seem to have is homes of multiple occupancy, safety for women and children, and the irresponsible growth housing development in the area.
Restore splitting the right-wing vote could hand Andy Burnham the win here, and though it might not be the necessarily easy victory that he wanted, it would still provide him legitimacy as the only Labour MP to have beaten Reform in an election since the 2024 general. In the local elections last month, This typically Labour safe seat voted Reform UK by a margin of 20%. So if Burnham can turn that around, he may be able to do the same across the whole country. He certainly has a dedicated voting base. Vote Andy for Us signs were by far the most common seen in front gardens, but others are perhaps not too sure of his intentions. Here's what some constituents had to say.
Who do you normally vote for?
The Greens. Some people are just sticking to what they think people want to hear rather than pushing forwards, with the actual support that they promise they're going to deliver.
You might notice there's a fair few major parties we haven't talked about so far, namely the Liberal Democrats, Greens, and even the Conservatives. The nature of the two-horse race here has led to these parties polling extremely low, and we caught up with Conservative candidate Michael Winstanley and Rejoin EU candidate Peter Ward to get their thoughts on the election and why they see value in continuing to campaign.
Okay, so for me, because we live in a democracy, it's really important that everyone has the right to vote Conservative, and I'm really clear on that. I've grown up in this constituency. I've been involved in the Conservative Party ever since I was 17, 18 years old. There's only ever been a Conservative on the ballot paper in local elections, so without us there wouldn't have been any elections in this constituency or in terms of the Wigan Borough over many, many years.
We do get people coming up and supporting us because we know ultimately the vast majority of people in the country want us to rejoin the EU. The huge majority of Labour MPs, supporters, etc., they want us to rejoin the EU, and it's kind of like we feel that we're the start of something here. You've got to come out and say, you've got to tell Andy Burnham, you've got to tell Keir Starmer, so that if nothing else, if the major parties get the message that if they put in their manifesto, we will rejoin the EU, they're going to get elected, and we feel that we're part of that movement.
One thing is for sure though, this election is down to the wire. Restore Britain seem to be deliberately trying to take votes away from Reform UK rather than campaigning in their own right, as this flyer we've secured shows, comparing their policies directly with Reform. This by-election will have consequences that range far beyond this constituency and could make or break entire political careers. In all the years I've worked in politics, getting tours of parliaments and offices and more, Makerfield is almost certainly the most fascinating place politically I've ever visited. From pubs plastered in signage to aptly named meal deals. The people of Makerfield are divided between right and left in choosing our next Prime Minister, which, when you think about it, is a lot like the state of UK politics in itself. A constituency divided, a country divided. And only time will tell if the Labour Parliamentary Party are waiting for a saviour who can't even make it through the front door. This is Head of News Ben Cavasi reporting from Makerfield, Manchester for Raw News.